The velvet box sat on the marble counter like an accusation. Choi Min-jun's hands trembled as he reached for it, already knowing what he'd find inside. The 3-carat diamond engagement ring caught the early morning Seoul sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, refracting tiny rainbows across the pristine white surface. Next to it, folded with deliberate care, was a handwritten note. He'd woken up alone 15 minutes ago. That wasn't unusual. Stephanie often rose before him, dancing around the kitchen to Afrobeats while making her terrible coffee that she loved and he pretended to enjoy. But this morning, the penthouse was silent. Oppressively, unnaturally silent. Stephanie. His voice echoed off the expensive minimalist decor, the modern art pieces she'd convinced him to buy, the vibrant Nigerian textile she'd hung over the leather sofa, despite his initial protests. It had grown on him. Everything about her had grown on him. No response. Min-jun had checked the bathroom first. Her toothbrush was gone. The special shea butter moisturizer she imported from Lagos, gone. The colorful head wraps she wore on lazy Sundays, gone. But when he'd opened the walk-in closet, his heart had stuttered. All her clothes remained. Every dress, every pair of shoes, every piece of jewelry he'd given her over 4 years hung or sat exactly where she'd left them. Except her passport. Now he stood in the kitchen, barefoot on cold marble, wearing only his sleeping pants, staring at the ring box like it might detonate. His phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command, Mr. Kong, about this morning's meeting. He ignored it. With movements that felt disconnected from his body, Min-jun opened the box. The ring gleamed, recently polished. She'd taken care of it one last time before returning it. That detail broke something in his chest. He picked up the note. Her handwriting was elegant, practiced from years of expensive international schooling. The paper felt heavy, quality stock, like she'd chosen it specifically for this goodbye. Some cages are gilded. Some loves are golden. I choose to remember ours as the latter. Don't look for me. I'm finally going home. S. Min-jun read it 3 times. 4. The words didn't change. The meaning didn't soften. She was gone. If you've ever lost someone who knew all your secrets, hit that like button. And don't go anywhere. What Min-jun discovers next will change everything. Subscribe and turn on notifications because this story gets darker than you can imagine. The note slipped from his fingers, floating back to the counter. Min-jun's mind raced backward, trying to pinpoint the moment. When had she decided? Yesterday, she'd seemed fine. They'd eaten dinner together, discussed wedding venue options she'd never cared much about, but pretended to for his sake. She'd laughed at his terrible joke about the salmon being too judgmental. She'd kissed him goodnight with what he'd thought was love in her eyes. Had it all been performance? He grabbed his phone with sudden urgency, dialing her number. It rang once, then went to voicemail. Her voice, warm and accented with that unique blend of British education and Nigerian roots, asked him to leave a message. Stephanie, it's me. I found. Please call me back. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Just, please. He hung up, the words feeling pathetic even as he said them. Min-jun called Ji-won next. She was Stephanie's best friend, a Korean-Nigerian woman who'd introduced them 4 years ago at a university networking event. If anyone knew where Stephanie had gone, it would be Ji-won. Hello. Ji-won's voice was cautious. Where is she? A pause. Too long. Min-jun, Where is she? His voice came out harder than intended, the tone he used in board meetings when someone was lying to him. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence, Ji-won. Stephanie is gone. Her toothbrush is gone, her passport is gone, but she left the ring. She left everything else. You knew about this. He could hear Ji-won breathing on the other end, calculating. Min-jun, if she left, maybe you should ask yourself why. What does that mean? It means some questions have answers you don't want to hear. Ji-won's voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry. I really am. But this was her choice. Her choice? To run away in the middle of the night without explanation? She explained. You just didn't listen when it mattered. The line went dead. Min-jun stared at his phone, Ji-won's words echoing. You just didn't listen when it mattered. When? When had Stephanie tried to tell him something, and he'd been too busy, too distracted with business to hear? He pulled up the security footage on his tablet, accessing the building's system. The feed showed the lobby, the elevator, the hallway outside their penthouse. He scrolled back through the night, watching the timestamp reverse. Midnight. 1 a.m. 2 a.m. 3. The footage glitched. A gray screen replaced the usual high-definition feed. Min-jun's jaw clenched. He scrolled further. The corruption extended from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., exactly the window when Stephanie must have left. This wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately erased the footage, which meant Stephanie had help. Min-jun grabbed his car keys, threw on clothes without thinking about coordination. He needed answers, and he knew exactly who could get them. 20 minutes later, he was in Gangnam, in a building his legitimate business partners didn't know he owned, climbing stairs to a reinforced door. Dae-young looked up from his wall of monitors when Min-jun burst in. The tech specialist was 35 but looked 50, aged by too many nights in front of screens doing work that existed in legal gray areas. I need you to find someone. Dae-young swiveled in his chair, reading Min Jun's expression. Who? Stephanie Wilson. She left sometime between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. last night. Someone corrupted the building security footage. I need airport surveillance, train stations, bus terminals. Every camera in Seoul. That's a lot of footage too. I don't care how long it takes. Start now. Dae-young's fingers flew across his keyboard. Multiple screens flickered to life, showing various camera feeds throughout the city. What am I looking for specifically? A Nigerian woman, 5'7", traveling alone. She would have had minimal luggage, maybe just a carry-on. She has a British passport. The search took 43 minutes. Min Jun spent them pacing Dae-young's cramped office, smoking cigarettes he'd quit 2 years ago because Stephanie hated the smell. Each minute felt like an hour. Each cigarette tasted like failure. Got her. Min Jun crossed the room in 3 strides. On the screen, grainy airport footage showed Stephanie walking through Incheon International Airport. The timestamp read 12:47 a.m. She wore a simple black jacket, jeans, sunglasses despite the late hour. She carried one small suitcase and a leather bag slung over her shoulder. Even in the poor quality footage, Min Jun could see the determination in her stride. This wasn't a woman running. This was a woman walking toward something. She booked a flight to Lagos, Dae-young said, pulling up the flight manifest. Nigerian Airways, departed at 2:35 a.m. She's already in the air. Will land in about 11 hours. Min Jun felt the ground shift beneath him. Lagos, Nigeria. Home. The word from her note suddenly carried weight he hadn't fully processed. She wasn't hiding in Seoul, wasn't staying with Jaewon or holed up in some hotel waiting for him to find her and apologize. She'd left the country. Left him. Gone back to a life that existed before he'd become her entire world. Or had he been fooling himself about that too? Book me on the next flight to Lagos, Min Jun said. Boss, are you sure that's? Book. The flight. Dae-young hesitated, then nodded. His fingers moved across the keyboard again. There's a Korean Air flight departing at 6 p.m. I can have you on it. Min Jun checked his watch. 9:23 a.m. He had less than 9 hours. Do it. And Dae-young? Find out everything you can about what Stephanie did in the last 3 months. Phone records, credit card statements, internet history. Everything. That's going to take. I don't care what it takes. As Min Jun left the building, his phone rang. Mr. Kong. He'd missed the morning meeting. Not now, he answered. We have a problem with the Lagos shipment, Kong said. The local suppliers are getting suspicious. We need to move up the timeline. Lagos. The word felt like a punch. What timeline? The acquisition. We discussed this last week. The pharmaceutical distribution network. If we don't move now, someone else will. Min Jun's mind struggled to shift gears from Stephanie to business. The Lagos operation. Right. They've been planning it for months. A hostile takeover of local Nigerian pharmaceutical suppliers, replacing them with their own distribution network. Profitable. Ruthless. The kind of business that had made him wealthy and powerful, and exactly the kind of man Stephanie had fallen in love with. Or had she? Boss, are you there? Continue as planned, Min Jun heard himself say. I'll be in Lagos tonight anyway. I can oversee it personally. You're going to Lagos? What? Personal business. He hung up before Kong could ask more questions. The drive back to the penthouse was a blur. Min Jun couldn't stop thinking about the footage of Stephanie walking through the airport. She'd looked so certain, so free. When had he last seen her look that free around him? Back in the penthouse, he stood in the doorway of their bedroom. Their bed was made with hospital corners, the way she always did it. Her pillow still held the slight indentation of her head. Min Jun sat on her side, picked up the pillow, breathed in her scent. Shea butter and jasmine. The smell of her was everywhere. His phone buzzed with a message from Dae-young. Found something. You need to see this. 20 minutes later, Min Jun was back in Dae-young's office, staring at a screen that showed Stephanie's internet search history from 3 months ago. Nigerian pharmaceutical companies in Lagos. How to report corporate fraud in South Korea. Whistleblower protection laws international. Can you be deported for testifying against your partner? Min Jun's blood ran cold. When were these searches? 3 months ago. Late November. All within a 2-week period, then nothing. She cleared her history after that, but I recovered it from the cloud backup. What else? Dae-young pulled up more files. She accessed your home office computer. Twice. Once on November 18th, once on November 24th. Both times when you were at the office. She was in there for approximately 45 minutes each time. Min Jun's home office, where he kept files he didn't keep at his legitimate business headquarters. Files about operations that existed in the shadows. Files about Lagos. Show me the security footage from those dates. Dae-young pulled up the internal penthouse security cameras. The timestamp showed November 18th, 2:17 p.m. Stephanie entered Min Jun's office, looking over her shoulder like she was afraid of being caught. She sat at his desk, typed in his password. How did she know his password? And began photographing documents with her phone. Min-jun watched his fiancée become a spy in real time. She was methodical, careful, photographing page after page of the Lagos operation plans, supplier lists, financial projections, names of local Nigerian business owners they planned to eliminate from the market. One name made her pause. She stared at it for a long moment, her hand trembling as she held the phone. Adeyemi Olabisi. Lagos Pharmaceutical Distribution, Do you know that name? Dae-young asked. No, but Stephanie clearly did. Her face on the screen showed something Min-jun had never seen before. Not just fear. Horror. Personal horror. Have you ever discovered someone you loved was keeping secrets that could destroy you? Drop a comment below. And if you want to see how deep this betrayal goes, smash that subscribe button right now. The footage continued. Stephanie finished photographing the documents, carefully returned everything to exactly how she'd found it, and left the office. She walked to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and put her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. She was crying. Min-jun had come home that evening to find her cooking dinner, smiling, asking about his day. She'd kissed him at the door, made love to him that night with an intensity he'd found thrilling. He'd thought she was happy. He'd thought they were happy. What happened on November 24th? Min-jun asked, his voice hollow. Dae-young pulled up the second footage. This time Stephanie moved faster, more confident. She knew what she was looking for. She went straight to a specific file drawer, pulled out a folder marked Lagos Acquisition, Confidential, and photographed every page. This folder contained the worst of it. The plans to sabotage local suppliers. The bribes to government officials. The threats made to business owners who wouldn't sell. When she finished, she stood in the middle of his office for a long moment, just breathing. Then she did something unexpected. She opened her phone, scrolled through the photos she'd just taken, and her finger hovered over the send button. Min-jun could see the email draft on her screen, addressed to the Seoul Metropolitan Police. She didn't send it. Instead, she deleted the draft and put her phone away. She had you, Dae-young said quietly. She had evidence that could have put you away for 20 years. Why didn't she send it? That was the question, wasn't it? Min-jun stared at the frozen image of Stephanie in his office, her hand on her phone, her face torn with indecision. Pull up her phone records from that week, Min-jun said. Dae-young did. The records showed multiple calls to G1, each lasting over an hour. One call to an international number in Lagos. Who's the Lagos number? Looking it up now. Dae-young ran it through his databases. Registered to an Olabisi household in Ikoyi, Lagos. Residential address. Olabisi. The same surname as the pharmaceutical distributor from the file Stephanie had photographed. The one whose name had made her pause. Min-jun's mind raced, connecting dots he didn't want to connect. Find out everything about Adeyemi Olabisi. Family, business connections, everything. While Dae-young worked, Min-jun pulled up the folder on his own phone. Adeyemi Olabisi, 63, owner of one of Lagos's largest independent pharmaceutical distributors. His company supplied medications to hospitals and clinics throughout Nigeria. He was in their way. The plan had been to drive him out of business through aggressive undercutting and supply chain manipulation. Nothing illegal, just ruthlessly efficient capitalism. The kind of business Min-jun had built his empire on. Got it, Dae-young said. Adeyemi Olabisi has 3 children, 2 sons in the import-export business, and 1 daughter. Chioma Olabisi. She attended university in Seoul 6 years ago. Seoul National University. International Business Program. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. What's Chioma's connection to Stephanie? Min-jun asked, though he already knew. Dae-young pulled up social media profiles. There it was. Photos of Stephanie and Chioma together at university, arms around each other, laughing. Tag locations showed years of friendship. Coffee shops. Study sessions. Graduation photos. A post from Stephanie 4 years ago. My soul sister. Couldn't have survived this city without you. Min-jun's hands clenched into fists. Stephanie hadn't just discovered his Lagos operation by accident. She'd discovered he was planning to destroy her best friend's father's business. Min-jun stood and walked to the window of Dae-young's office, looking out at the Seoul skyline. The city glittered in the morning sun, beautiful and cold. How had he not known? For years together, and he'd never heard Stephanie mention Chioma. Never heard about a friend whose father ran a pharmaceutical business in Lagos. Had she hidden it deliberately, or had he simply never asked? He thought back to 4 years ago, to the night they'd met. G1 had invited him to a university networking event for international business students. He'd gone as a favor to her, expecting to be bored. Instead, he'd found Stephanie standing in front of a presentation screen, talking about emerging African markets with a confidence and intelligence that had captivated the entire room. After her presentation, he'd approached her at the wine table. You made pharmaceuticals sound exciting. That's a rare talent. She'd laughed, bright and genuine. That's because they are exciting. Do you know how many people die in developing countries from preventable diseases because they can't access affordable medications? The pharmaceutical distribution system could save millions of lives if it wasn't controlled by corporations more interested in profit margins than human lives. He should have heard the warning in those words. Should have understood that she cared about things like ethics and human lives and justice. But he'd been charmed by her passion, attracted to her fire. He'd asked her to dinner. She'd said yes. Boss. Dae-young's voice pulled him back to the present. There's more. Min-jun turned. Show me. Dae-young pulled up email records, recovered from Stephanie's deleted files. Emails between Stephanie and Chioma, starting 3 months ago. The first email was from Chioma. Steph, I don't know what to do. Someone is targeting my father's business. Competitors are undercutting our prices by 40%. Our suppliers are being threatened. 2 of our warehouse managers quit last week without explanation. My father is losing everything he built. He won't say it, but I think he's scared. Stephanie's response. Have you gone to the police? Chioma. And tell them what? That we're being outcompete? This is business, they say. Nothing illegal about it. But Steph, it's coordinated. Someone powerful is behind this. Someone who wants us gone. The next email was from 2 weeks later. Stephanie had found the files in Min-jun's office by then. Her message was short. I found something. Can't talk about it in writing. Call me. After that, the email thread went silent. But the phone records showed daily calls between them, some lasting hours. Min-jun felt sick. He'd been planning to destroy the father of Stephanie's best friend, and she'd discovered it. She'd seen the documents, seen the names, understood exactly what he was doing. And she'd realized that the man she loved, the man she'd agreed to marry, was a monster. When did I propose? Min-jun asked suddenly. Dae-young checked. 6 months ago, July 14th, before she'd found the files, before she'd known what he really was. She'd said yes to a version of him that didn't exist anymore. Or maybe had never existed at all. Pull up everything from the last 3 months, Min-jun said. I want to see what she did after she found out. The digital trail painted a picture of Stephanie's disintegration. Her search history showed increasingly desperate queries. Can you love someone and hate what they do? How to leave someone dangerous safely? Signs of being in an abusive relationship. That last one made Min-jun's chest tighten. He'd never touched her in anger, never raised his voice. But abuse wasn't just physical, was it? Her text messages with Ji-won were more revealing. Stephanie, I can't stay with him. Not after what I know. Ji-won, then leave. Stephanie, it's not that simple. I love him. The him I thought I knew. Ji-won, that version doesn't exist, Steph. It never did. Stephanie, what if I'm wrong? What if there's an explanation? Ji-won, you saw the documents. You know what he's planning to do to Chioma's family. What explanation would make that okay? The messages continued over weeks. Stephanie wavering, hoping, trying to find a way to make it work. She'd even drafted a message to Min-jun several times, trying to confront him, but never sent any of them. One draft read, Min-jun, I need to talk to you about your Legos business dealings. I found documents in your office. I know what you're planning. Please tell me there's something I don't understand. Please tell me you're not really going to destroy innocent people's lives for profit. She deleted it. Another draft. I can't marry you. I'm sorry. I thought I knew who you were, but I was wrong. Or maybe you were wrong. Either way, this can't work. Deleted. The final draft, written 2 weeks ago. I love you. I hate that I still love you. But love isn't enough, is it? Not when staying means becoming complicit in everything you do. Not when looking at you means seeing Chioma's father losing everything. Not when saying, I do means saying, I don't care who gets hurt as long as I'm comfortable. I'm sorry. I have to go. Also deleted. She'd never sent any of them. Never confronted him. Instead, she'd made her plan in silence, waiting for the right moment to disappear. There's one more thing, Dae-young said carefully. From 2 nights ago, Min-jun braced himself. The audio file was from the penthouse's ambient security system, a feature Min-jun had installed for protection that now exposed him. 2 nights ago, he'd been in his office on a phone call with Mr. Kong, discussing the Lagos operation. He'd thought Stephanie was in the bedroom watching Netflix with her headphones on. She wasn't. The audio played. His own voice, cold and businesslike. I don't care about Olabisi's family situation. His daughter's medical school tuition isn't my problem. We move forward as planned. If he won't sell voluntarily, we make it impossible for him to stay in business. Cut off his supply lines, bribe his employees, whatever it takes. I want him bankrupt by March. Kang's response. What if he goes to the authorities? Min-jun's laugh on the recording was harsh. With what evidence? We've done nothing illegal. We're just better at business than he is. That's capitalism, Kong. The strong survive. Kong. His daughter called our office yesterday, begging us to stop. She was crying. Then she should have told her father to take our buyout offer when he had the chance. Not my problem. There was a sound on the recording. A sharp intake of breath. Stephanie, listening from the hallway. Min-jun heard his own footsteps on the recording, walking to the office door. His voice, Stephanie? I thought you were in bed. Her voice, tight and controlled. I was thirsty. Just getting water. Everything okay? Fine. I'm fine. the sound of her footsteps retreating, the bedroom door closing. If you've ever heard someone you love say something that made you realize you never really knew them, this next part will hit hard. Hit like and subscribe. You need to see what Stephanie does next. Minjun closed his eyes. She'd heard everything. Heard him dismiss Chioma's tears, her father's livelihood, the destruction of her friend's family as not my problem. And she'd pretended everything was fine. Had come to bed that night and let him hold her, knowing she was already planning to leave. The next day, according to the records, Stephanie had made her final preparations. She'd withdrawn cash from their joint account. Not much, just enough for a flight and a few weeks of expenses. She'd transferred her important documents to a cloud drive. She'd written the goodbye note and polished the engagement ring. And then, yesterday, their last day together, she'd acted perfectly normal. They'd discussed wedding venues. She'd laughed at his jokes. She'd kissed him goodnight. Because she'd known it was goodbye. Book me that flight, Minjun said quietly. And cancel all my meetings for the next week. Boss, are you sure you want to go to Lagos? If she wanted to be found, she wouldn't have. I'm not going to find her, Minjun interrupted. I'm going because I need to see it. Need to see what I almost destroyed. What he had destroyed. His relationship with the only woman he'd ever loved. Because he'd been so focused on profit margins and market domination that he'd forgotten there were real people on the other side of his business decisions. People like Adeyemi Olabisi, who'd built his business over decades. People like Chioma, who was watching her father's life's work crumble. People like Stephanie, who'd fallen in love with a version of him that maybe had never really existed. Minjun spent the rest of the day in the penthouse, moving through rooms like a ghost. Everything reminded him of her. The kitchen where she'd danced while cooking. The living room where they'd argued about his taste in art. The bedroom where she'd held him after his mother's funeral, the only person who'd seen him cry. He opened her closet, ran his hands over the dresses she'd left behind. Designer labels, expensive fabrics, all gifts from him. She'd left them all, taken nothing but her passport, her toothbrush, and whatever clothes she'd been wearing. In the back of the closet, behind a row of shoes, Minjun found a shoebox. Inside were photographs. Him and Stephanie at various points over 4 years. Their first date at a traditional Korean restaurant. Her face scrunched up adorably as she tried kimchi for the first time. A trip to Jeju Island where they'd hiked and laughed and made love in a beachside hotel. His mother's funeral, Stephanie in a black dress, holding his hand. His proposal 6 months ago, her tearful yes, the ring sliding onto her finger. She'd looked so happy in that moment. At the bottom of the shoebox was an envelope he'd never seen before. His name written on the front in her handwriting, but different from the goodbye note. This was older, the ink slightly faded. Minjun opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, dated 8 months ago, before his proposal. My love, I'm writing this at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep. You're next to me, breathing softly, and I'm watching you and feeling so much it scares me. I don't think you know how completely I love you. How you've become the axis my world spins on. Today you told me about your childhood, about your mother raising you alone after your father left, about the poverty and hunger and shame, about promising her you'd never be poor again, never be powerless again. I understood something about you today that I hadn't before. You're not driven by greed. You're driven by fear. Fear of ever being that helpless boy again. I want you to know that I see you. The real you, underneath the expensive suits and the cold business decisions. I see the man who cried when we visited the orphanage. The man who secretly donates to that children's hospital. The man who holds me like I'm something precious. I'm writing this because I want to remember this feeling. This certainty. This love. Because something tells me it won't always be this simple. Life never is. But right now, in this moment, I want you to know that I choose you. Whatever comes, I choose you. Forever yours. Stephanie. Minjun read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. She'd chosen him. Past tense. Before she'd known what he was really capable of. Before she'd seen the documents that proved he was exactly the kind of man who'd destroy lives without hesitation. She'd loved the man she thought he was. And when she'd discovered the truth, that love hadn't been enough. His phone alarm reminded him it was time to leave for the airport. Minjun carefully folded the letter, put it in his wallet next to a photo of them together, and walked out of the penthouse that no longer felt like home. The flight to Lagos was 13 hours of hell. Minjun couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could only sit and replay every moment of the last 4 years, looking for the signs he'd missed. Had she ever really loved him, or had it all been an illusion? No, that wasn't fair. The letter proved she'd loved him. She'd just stopped when she'd learned the truth. Could he blame her? His phone buzzed with messages from Kong about the Lagos operation, about meetings scheduled for tomorrow with potential partners in their acquisition scheme. Minjun stared at the messages, seeing them differently now. These weren't business opportunities. These were people's lives he was planning to ruin. People with daughters and families and decades of hard work. People like Adeyemi Olabisi, whose only crime was being in Minjun's way. When the plane landed in Lagos, the heat hit him like a wall. Minjun had traveled extensively for business, but never to Nigeria. The Murtala Mohammed International Airport was chaos, crowds and noise and vibrant energy that was completely foreign to Seoul's orderly efficiency. He made his way through customs, collected his luggage, and found the car De Jong had arranged. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked in accented English. Minjun gave him the address of the hotel where he'd booked a room, but then changed his mind. "Actually, take me to Ikoyi, the Olabisi residence." The driver's eyebrows rose, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." The drive through Lagos was overwhelming. Traffic that made Seoul look empty. Street vendors everywhere. Music blasting from cars. Colors and sounds and smells that assaulted his senses. This was Stephanie's home. This chaotic, vibrant, overwhelming city was where she'd grown up before her parents sent her to boarding school in England. He understood something then. She'd never really belonged in his sterile Seoul penthouse. She'd been a wildflower trying to survive in a vase. The Olabisi house was in a gated community in Ikoyi, a nice neighborhood but not ostentatious. Upper middle class, comfortable. The kind of home built over years of hard work and careful saving. Minjun had the driver stop at the gate. "Should I wait, sir?" "Yes." Minjun didn't know what he was doing here, but he needed to see it. Needed to see what he'd almost destroyed. Through the gate, he could see a white two-story house with a well-maintained garden. A car was parked in the driveway, an older model but clean and cared for. This was the home of a man who took pride in what he'd built. A man whose business Minjun had planned to systematically destroy because it was profitable to do so. The front door opened, and a young woman came out. Even from a distance, Minjun recognized her from the social media photos. Chioma Olabisi, Stephanie's friend. She was carrying a briefcase, dressed professionally, probably heading to work. Her face was drawn, tired. The stress of watching her father's business collapse was written in every line of her body. This was what his business decisions looked like in human form. Not numbers on a spreadsheet. Not market share percentages. A exhausted young woman carrying the weight of her family's crisis on her shoulders. Minjun felt sick. Have you ever realized too late that your actions hurt someone innocent? Comment below. And don't miss what happens when Minjun makes a choice that changes everything. Subscribe now. "Sir." The driver was watching him in the rearview mirror. "Everything okay?" "Take me to the hotel," Minjun said quietly. The hotel was luxury, international chain, the kind of place that could have been anywhere in the world. Minjun checked in, went to his room, and stood at the window looking out at Lagos. Somewhere in this massive city was Stephanie, starting over, building a life that didn't include him. His phone rang. "Calm. Boss, I have the meeting set up for tomorrow morning. The government contact who can help us with the import licenses. If we move fast, we can have a Labisi's supply chain completely disrupted by next month." Minjun closed his eyes. "Cancel it." "What?" "Sir, we've been planning this for." "Cancel all of it. The Lagos operation is done." Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, "Boss, we've invested over $3 million in this operation. If we pull out now, then we lose $3 million. Cancel it." "Calm. That's an order." "May I ask why?" "Because I saw Chioma Olabisi's face and remembered that business decisions have human consequences. Because Stephanie left me, and I finally understand why. Because I'm tired of being the villain in everyone's story, including my own. Because it's the right thing to do," Minjun said. Another long silence. "I don't understand." "You don't have to. Just do it. And calm. Contact Olabisi's company. Tell them the competitive pressure they've been experiencing will stop immediately. Offer to buy supplies from them at fair market rates. Make it a partnership, not a takeover." "Boss, have you lost your mind?" "Maybe. Or maybe he'd finally found it." "Just do it. I'll handle the board when I get back to Seoul." He hung up before Kong could argue further. His phone immediately buzzed with messages from other executives. Clearly Kong had spread the word that their boss had gone insane. Minjun ignored them all. Instead, he pulled out his laptop and began drafting an email. Not to Stephanie. He had no right to contact her after what he'd done. But to someone who deserved to know the truth. "Mr. Olabisi, my name is Choi Minjun. You don't know me, but I'm the reason your business has been struggling these past months. My company has been systematically targeting you for acquisition, and when you refused our buyout offer, we made it our mission to force you out of the market. I'm writing to tell you that stops now. Effective immediately, all competitive pressure against your company will cease. I'm also prepared to offer a formal partnership that would benefit both our organizations, if you're interested. If not, I'll simply ensure you're left alone to run your business in peace. I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I can stop causing more. I hope that's a start. I'm also writing to apologize. What I did was legal but wrong. Profitable but cruel. I made business decisions without considering the human cost. Your daughter Chioma reached out to my office weeks ago, and I dismissed her concerns. I was wrong to do that. I was wrong about everything. This apology doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know that someone is taking responsibility. Sincerely, Choi Minjun. He sent it before he could second-guess himself. It would probably go to spam or be deleted unread, but at least he'd said it. At least he'd acknowledged what he'd done. Minjun spent the rest of the evening in his hotel room, not sleeping, just thinking. About Stephanie and the life they'd built together. About his mother, who'd raised him to be better than this. About the moment somewhere along the way when he decided that success mattered more than integrity. His phone buzzed at 11 p.m. An email response from Adeyemi Olabisi. Mr. Choi, I confess I'm surprised to receive this message. Suspicious too, if I'm honest. In my experience, men like you don't have sudden changes of heart without ulterior motives. But my daughter tells me I should give people the benefit of the doubt. So I will. I'm not interested in a partnership with your organization. I've built my business on principles of fair dealing and community service, and I don't believe your company shares those values. However, I accept your commitment to cease hostile actions against my business. I hope you're a man of your word. As for your apology, I accept it. Not because it fixes the damage or erases the stress you've caused my family, but because holding on to anger would only hurt me further. My faith teaches me to forgive. So I forgive you, Mr. Choi. But I also hope you understand that forgiveness doesn't mean trust. I hope whatever caused this change of heart continues to guide you toward better decisions. Regards. Adeyemi Olabisi. Minjun read the email 3 times. The grace in it shamed him. This man had every right to curse him, to threaten legal action, to celebrate his obvious breakdown. Instead, he'd offered forgiveness while maintaining his dignity and boundaries. This was Stephanie's friend's father. A good man. A man Minjun had nearly destroyed for profit. He typed a response. Thank you for your grace, Mr. Olabisi. You're right not to trust me. I haven't earned it. But I hope my actions going forward will speak louder than this email. And please give my regards to Chioma. She was right to fight for you. After sending it, Minjun opened a bottle from the minibar. Whiskey, expensive, empty comfort. He poured a glass and went back to the window. Somewhere out there, Stephanie was sleeping. Or maybe she couldn't sleep either. Maybe she was thinking about him, about them, about everything they'd lost. Or maybe she'd already moved on, relieved to be free of the weight of loving him. His phone buzzed again. This time a message from Dae-young with an address. I found her. Sent the location. Boss, are you sure you want this? Minjun stared at the message. He could find her right now. Show up at her door. Beg her to listen. Tell her he'd changed, that he'd stopped the Lagos operation, that he was trying to be better. But what right did he have? She'd made her choice. She'd left the ring and walked away. Chasing her down would just be another form of the selfishness that had driven her away in the first place. He deleted the message without opening the location. If Stephanie wanted to be found, she would have left a way to contact her. The fact that she hadn't was answer enough. Minjun spent 3 days in Lagos doing nothing but thinking. He walked through the markets, overwhelmed by the sounds and smells and energy. He visited the pharmaceutical district where Olabisi's company was headquartered, saw the employees coming and going, people whose jobs he'd almost eliminated. He sat in cafes and watched families, couples, children playing. Life happening all around him while his own felt suspended. On the 4th morning, his phone rang. An unknown local number. Mr. Choi. A woman's voice, professional but cautious. Yes. This is Chioma Olabisi. My father forwarded me your email. I'd like to meet with you. Minjun's heart jumped. Ah yes. Of course. When and where? There's a cafe in Victoria Island. Terra Culture. Do you know it? I'll find it. 1 hour. She hung up before he could respond. Minjun showered and dressed carefully, his hands shaking as he knotted his tie. This was Stephanie's best friend. The woman who'd watched her fall apart over the last 3 months. The woman whose family he'd nearly destroyed. What could he possibly say to her? Terra Culture was a cultural center and cafe, full of Nigerian art and the smell of coffee. Chioma was already there when he arrived, sitting at a corner table. She looked tired but composed, wearing a business suit and an expression that gave nothing away. Thank you for meeting me, Minjun said, sitting across from her. I didn't do it for you. Her voice was sharp. I did it because I needed to see if you're actually serious about changing or if this is some elaborate manipulation. It's not manipulation. Forgive me if I don't take your word for it. 3 weeks ago, your company was systematically trying to destroy my father's livelihood. Now suddenly you've had a change of heart. Her eyes narrowed. This is about Stephanie, isn't it? Minjun flinched at her name. Partially. Partially. Chioma laughed, bitter. Let me guess. She left you, and now you're having some sort of moral crisis. She had every right to leave. Damn right she did. Chioma leaned forward. Do you know what the last 3 months have been like for her? Watching you, loving you, knowing what you were planning to do to my family? She cried herself to sleep every night. She'd wake up and put on a smile and pretend everything was fine because she was terrified of what you'd do if you knew she'd found out. I would never hurt her, wouldn't you? Chioma's voice rose slightly. You were planning to destroy my father's business. Did you think that wouldn't hurt her? Did you think she could just ignore that her fiancé was ruining the lives of people she cared about? Minjun had no answer. She was right. She loved you. Chioma continued, her voice breaking slightly. God help her, she really loved you. And that made it so much worse. Because she had to choose between the man she loved and doing what was right. And you put her in that position. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what you did to her? Chioma's eyes were bright with angry tears. She called me the night she found those documents. She was hyperventilating, couldn't breathe. She said, Chioma, what do I do? How do I love someone who's doing this? And I had no answer for her. What answer is there? Minjun felt each word like a physical blow. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't give her back the last 3 months she spent in agony. Sorry doesn't undo the fact that the man she was going to marry turned out to be someone who'd destroy innocent people's lives for profit. Chioma wiped her eyes angrily. Why did you stop the Lagos operation, Mr. Choi? And don't lie to me. Because I saw you, Minjun said quietly, coming out of your house. You looked exhausted and stressed, and I realized that was my doing. I'd done that to you. And I thought about Stephanie seeing the same thing and understanding that I was capable of that level of cruelty. So you stopped because you got caught. I stopped because I finally saw the human cost of what I was doing. Chioma studied him for a long moment. My father wants to forgive you. He's a better person than I am. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. Maybe I never will be. But I wanted to meet you because I needed to see if there was any chance you actually meant what you said in that email. I meant every word. Then prove it. Not with emails or apologies. With actions. Change how you do business. Stop treating people like obstacles to be removed. Be the man Stephanie thought you were. Chioma stood up. And leave her alone. She's been through enough. If you actually care about her, you'll let her heal. I'm not here to find her. Good. Because if you show up at her door, if you try to manipulate her into coming back, I will make your life very difficult. She deserves peace. She deserves to be free of you. Chioma grabbed her purse. I hope you actually change, Mr. Choi, for your sake and for everyone who has to deal with you. But hope is different from trust. You'll have to earn that. She left before he could respond. Minjun sat alone in the cafe, Chioma's words echoing in his head. Be the man Stephanie thought you were. But what if that man had never existed? What if he'd always been capable of the cruelty Stephanie had discovered, and she'd just been fooled by his better moments? If someone you love told you that you weren't who they thought you were, could you change? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're wondering whether Minjun can actually become a better man, hit that subscribe button because this story isn't over yet. Minjun returned to his hotel room and spent the afternoon going through his business portfolio. Every deal, every acquisition, every strategic decision looked different now. How many lives had he disrupted? How many people had lost their livelihoods because he'd seen an opportunity for profit? The pharmaceutical company in Thailand he'd bought out 3 years ago, laying off 200 employees because his version was more efficient. The electronics supplier in Vietnam he'd bankrupted by undercutting their prices until they couldn't compete. The family restaurant chain in Seoul he'd forced to sell by buying up their leases and tripling the rent. All legal, all profitable, all cruel. His phone rang. His CFO in Seoul. Minjun, what the hell is going on? Kong said you canceled the Lagos operation. The board is furious. We're out $3 million in. Schedule a board meeting for when I return. Minjun interrupted. I'm restructuring the company. Restructuring? What does that mean? It means we're going to start doing business like we actually care about the people affected by our decisions. That's not how business works. We have shareholders. We have profit obligations. Then we'll find a way to be profitable without destroying lives. If the shareholders don't like it, they can sell their shares. You're going to tank the company. Or I'm going to build something worth being proud of. Minjun hung up. He knew what this meant. The board would fight him. Some executives would quit. Stock prices would probably drop initially. He might lose control of his own company. But for the first time in years, he felt like he was making a decision his mother would have approved of. His mother. She died 2 years ago, cancer, and in her final days she'd held his hand and said, I'm proud of who you've become, Minjun. You're strong and successful. But don't forget to be kind. Success without kindness is just cruelty in a nice suit. He'd nodded and promised, but he hadn't really heard her. He'd been too focused on the next deal, the next acquisition, the next victory. When had kindness become something he'd forgotten about entirely? Stephanie had tried to remind him. All those times she'd encouraged him to donate to charities, to consider the impact of his business decisions, to think about more than just profit. He'd humored her, made the donations she suggested, but he hadn't really changed. He'd just gotten better at hiding what he was doing from her. Until she'd found the Lagos files and discovered the truth. Minjun opened his laptop and began writing. Not an email this time, but a plan. A real restructuring plan for his company that prioritized ethical business practices. Fair wages for suppliers. Compensation for communities affected by their operations. Environmental sustainability. All the things he'd dismissed as too expensive or not our problem suddenly became priorities. It took him 6 hours to draft the proposal. By the time he finished, it was past midnight. His phone showed dozens of missed calls and messages from Seoul. The business world was in chaos over his decisions. Let them panic. He was done making choices based on what was profitable instead of what was right. The next morning, Minjun made one more visit before leaving Lagos. He went back to the Olabisi house, but this time he rang the bell. A housekeeper answered, looked suspicious when she saw him, but agreed to fetch Mr. Olabisi. Adeyemi Olabisi came to the door, tall and dignified, with gray hair and kind eyes that reminded Minjun painfully of Stephanie. Mr. Choi, I'm surprised to see you. I'm returning to Seoul today. I wanted to apologize in person before I left. Olabisi studied him for a moment, then stepped outside, closing the door behind him. Walk with me. They walked through the gated community in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Olabisi spoke. Chioma told me about your meeting yesterday. She said you seemed sincere, but broken. She's perceptive. She also said you're in love with Stephanie Wilson. Minjun's step faltered. She told you about Stephanie? She told me everything. About how Stephanie discovered what you were planning and how it tore her apart. About how she left you rather than become complicit in your business practices. Olabisi stopped walking and turned to face him. My daughter and Stephanie have been friends since university. I've known Stephanie for 6 years. She's a good woman. Strong, principled, kind. I know. Then you also know she deserves better than what you gave her. The words stung because they were true. I do know that. Good. Then don't contact her. Don't show up trying to win her back with promises of change. If you actually love her, let her go. Let her build a life without the weight of your mistakes. That's what I'm trying to do. Olabisi nodded slowly. I believe you. And that's why I'm going to give you something. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Stephanie asked me to hold on to this. She said if you ever came looking for her, I should give it to you. But if you never came, I should destroy it. Minjun took the envelope with shaking hands. His name was written on the front in Stephanie's handwriting. She knew I might come? She knows you better than you think, Olabisi said. Read it on your flight home. And Mr. Choi? Whatever it says, respect her wishes. She's been through enough. Minjun clutched the envelope like it might dissolve. Thank you. For this, and for your forgiveness. Don't thank me yet. Forgiveness is just words until you prove with your actions that you've actually changed. Olabisi extended his hand. I hope you do. For your sake and for everyone who depends on you. They shook hands, and Minjun returned to his hotel to pack. The envelope sat on the bed, unopened, terrifying. What would Stephanie's final words to him be? Anger? Regret? A door definitively closed? He didn't open it until he was on the plane back to Seoul, 6 hours into the 13-hour flight. His hands shook as he broke the seal. Inside was a letter, 3 pages in her distinctive handwriting, and something else. A photograph. Minjun looked at it first. It was from their first date, taken by a stranger they'd asked at the restaurant. Both of them smiling, her eyes bright with new love, him looking at her like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. They'd been so happy that night. Minjun set the photo aside and began reading. Minjun, if you're reading this, it means you came to Lagos looking for me. Part of me hoped you would. Part of me hoped you wouldn't. I'm still not sure which part was right. I've written this letter 17 times. Deleted it 16. This is the version I'm leaving with Mr. Olabisi, because I know if I keep trying to perfect it, I'll never send it at all. So here's the imperfect truth. I left because I had to. Not because I stopped loving you. I wish it was that simple. I left because staying meant watching you destroy good people's lives and pretending I didn't know. It meant becoming complicit. It meant choosing comfort over conscience, and I couldn't do that. Not even for you. You need to understand something. When I found those documents in your office, when I saw what you were planning to do to Chioma's father, my first instinct wasn't to leave. It was to find an explanation. To convince myself there was context I was missing, that you had reasons that would make it okay. I wanted so desperately to not see what was right in front of me. I spent 3 months in denial. 3 months telling myself that maybe business just worked differently than I understood. That maybe I was being naive or overly emotional. That maybe loving you meant accepting this part of you I didn't like. But then I heard you on the phone 2 nights before I left. Heard you dismiss Chioma's tears as not your problem. Heard you laugh about destroying her father's business. And something broke in me that I don't think can be fixed. It wasn't just what you said. It was how easily you said it. Like ruining lives was just another Tuesday. Like the human cost of your decisions was too trivial to even consider. And I realized I didn't recognize you anymore. Or maybe I finally recognized you for the first time. I've asked myself 1,000 times if I was wrong. If I judged you too harshly. If I should have confronted you instead of running. But Minjun, I was scared. Not that you'd hurt me physically. You never would. I was scared that you'd convince me to stay. That you'd make promises and I'd believe them because I wanted to so badly. That I'd compromise my principles piece by piece until I didn't recognize myself anymore. So I left while I still could. While I still knew who I was. I want you to know that I took photos of your Lagos documents. Evidence of everything you were planning. I could have sent them to the authorities. Should have, maybe. But I didn't. I deleted them instead. Not because what you were doing was okay. It wasn't. Not because you deserved my protection. You didn't. I deleted them because destroying you wouldn't undo the damage you'd already caused. It would just create more pain. And because somewhere beneath the man who could carelessly ruin lives, I still believe there was the man I fell in love with. The man who cried at the orphanage. The man who held his mother's hand in the hospital. The man who once told me his dream was to build something his mother would be proud of. I deleted those files as a gift, as a chance, as one last act of faith in who you could be if you chose to be better. But Minjun, that chance only matters if you actually choose to change. Not because you got caught, not because you lost me, but because you genuinely recognize that how you've been doing business is wrong. If you're reading this, I don't know what that means. Maybe you came looking for me to apologize. Maybe you came to convince me to come back. Maybe you came because you can't let go of anything you think belongs to you. I need you to understand something clearly. I'm not coming back. Not now, maybe not ever. Not because I don't love you. Unfortunately, I probably always will. But because love isn't enough when the person you love is hurting people. If you actually want to make things right, don't try to find me. Don't send flowers or letters or grand gestures. Just be better. Change how you do business. Stop seeing people as obstacles or opportunities and start seeing them as human beings with lives that matter as much as yours. Be the man your mother raised you to be. Be the man I thought I was marrying. Not for me. For you. I'm leaving this letter with Mr. Alabasai because he's a good man who understands forgiveness better than I do right now. If you showed up at his door, it means you at least had the courage to face the people you hurt. That's a start. I don't know if we'll ever see each other again. Part of me hopes we will, someday, when enough time has passed, and we're both different people. Part of me thinks it's better if we don't. Clean breaks heal faster than ones that keep reopening. What I do know is this. I loved you with everything I had. You taught me what it felt like to be completely seen and completely cherished. Our 4 years together weren't a mistake, even if they ended like this. You were my first real love, maybe my last. And I'll carry that with me, even as I build a life that doesn't include you. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I hope you build a company you can be proud of. I hope someday you look in the mirror and like the man looking back. And I hope you understand why I had to go. Take care of yourself, Minjun. Eat properly. Stop working 18-hour days. Find someone who makes you laugh. Be happy. Just be happy without me. Forever changed by knowing you. Stephanie. P.S. There's one more thing I need you to know. In my nightstand drawer, back in the penthouse, there's a manila envelope. I almost took it with me, but decided you should have it instead. It's every photo I ever took of documents in your office, printed and dated. Consider it insurance. I trust that you'll do the right thing with your business. But if you don't, if you go back to Seoul and continue destroying lives like none of this happened, those documents exist. And if I hear that you're hurting people again, I won't hesitate to use them. I hope I never have to. I hope you prove that my faith in you wasn't completely misplaced. But I will if I must. Because some things matter more than love. Minjun read the letter 4 times on the plane, memorizing every word. Each reading hurt differently. The first was shock. The second was grief. The third was shame. The fourth was something like understanding. She'd loved him enough to walk away. Loved him enough to give him a chance to be better. Loved him enough to leave evidence of his crimes, but trust him not to force her to use it. That was a kind of love he didn't deserve, but desperately wanted to earn. The photo from their first date sat next to the letter. He studied their faces, trying to remember what he'd been thinking that night. He'd been charmed by her intelligence, attracted to her beauty, intrigued by her passion. But he'd also been calculating, hadn't he? Thinking about how having a smart, beautiful, well-connected woman on his arm would look. How she could help him expand into African markets. When had he stopped calculating and actually fallen in love? He couldn't pinpoint the exact moment. It had happened gradually, like dawn breaking. One day he'd realized he was thinking about her happiness more than his own convenience. That her opinion mattered more than his board's. That losing her would break something fundamental in him. And now he had lost her. Not to death or distance or some external force, but to his own choices. To the man he'd become when he stopped listening to his mother's voice in his head telling him to be kind. Have you ever had to choose between loving someone and being true to yourself? Let us know in the comments. And if you think Minjun can actually change, or if it's too late, hit that like button and subscribe because this story has one more twist that will leave you speechless. When the plane landed in Seoul, Minjun went straight to the penthouse. It felt even emptier than before, haunted by Stephanie's absence. He went to her nightstand and opened the drawer. The manila envelope was there, thick with documents. He opened it. Photographs of every incriminating document in his office. The Lagos operation plans. The Thailand acquisition strategy. The Vietnam supplier elimination scheme. All dated, all documented. Enough evidence to put him in prison for fraud, conspiracy, and half a dozen other charges. She'd had him completely. Could have destroyed him at any moment. And she'd left the evidence for him to find, trusting him to do the right thing. Minjun took the envelope to his office, spread the documents across his desk, and really looked at them for the first time. Not as business opportunities, but as proof of harm he'd caused. Each page represented lives disrupted, families stressed, dreams destroyed. He took out his lighter. One flick and all the evidence would be ash. He could go back to business as usual, pretend the last week had never happened. Stephanie would never know. She was thousands of miles away, building a new life. But he would know. And more importantly, his mother would have known. Minjun put the lighter away and called his executive assistant. Set up a board meeting for tomorrow morning. Tell them it's mandatory. And schedule a press conference for tomorrow afternoon. A press conference? Sir, about what? About the future of this company. He spent the rest of the night preparing his presentation. Not about profit projections or market expansion. About accountability and change. By dawn, he had a 40-page proposal for restructuring the entire company around ethical business practices. The board meeting was predictably hostile. You want us to voluntarily reduce our profit margins? The CFO looked at him like he'd suggested burning money. Minjun, are you having some kind of breakdown? I'm having a breakthrough. There's a difference. This is insane, another board member said. We have fiduciary responsibilities to our shareholders. We also have moral responsibilities to the communities we operate in. Minjun pulled up a slide showing the Olabisai family. This is Adeyemi Olabisai and his daughter Chioma. 3 weeks ago, we were systematically destroying his pharmaceutical business in Lagos. Not because he'd done anything wrong. Not because we needed to. Just because it was profitable. That's business, someone muttered. That's cruelty disguised as business, Minjun corrected. And I'm done with it. This company is going to change. We're going to compensate everyone we've harmed through aggressive business practices. We're going to establish fair trade relationships instead of exploitative ones. We're going to build something we can actually be proud of. And if we don't agree, the CFO asked, then you can vote me out as CEO. But you should know that I'm prepared to go public with everything we've done. Every hostile takeover, every eliminated competitor, every life we've disrupted for profit. The press conference this afternoon will either announce our new direction or expose our old one. Your choice. The room went silent. Minjun had just threatened to destroy his own company rather than continue running it unethically. It was corporate suicide. It was also the first truly honest thing he'd done in years. You're bluffing, someone said. Minjun pulled out Stephanie's manila envelope and dropped it on the conference table. These are documents proving various illegal and unethical business practices. I'm giving you all a choice. We change together, or I burn this company down and we all face the consequences of what we've built. The board members stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. The CFO reached for it, but Minjun pulled it back. That's not for you to see unless you force my hand. What I need to know right now is whether you're willing to be part of the solution or if you're going to fight to protect the problem. This is extortion, one of the board members said. No, this is accountability. Extortion would be if I was asking for something I didn't deserve. I'm asking you to help me fix what we've broken. The chairman of the board, an older man named Park who'd known Minjun's mother, cleared his throat. May I ask what brought about this sudden crisis of conscience? Minjun looked at him directly. I lost someone I loved because she couldn't reconcile who I claimed to be with who I actually was. And I realized she was right. I've been hiding behind words like strategic and competitive to avoid admitting I've been hurting people. My mother raised me better than this. I forgot that somewhere along the way. Park's expression softened slightly. Your mother was a good woman. She would be proud of what you're trying to do now, even if the method is unorthodox. Does that mean you'll support the restructuring? It means I won't fight it. The others will have to make their own choices. Park looked around the table. I suggest we take a vote. All in favor of supporting Minjun's proposed ethical restructuring, even though it will likely cost us short-term profits. Raise your hand. Park raised his hand. Slowly, one by one, others followed. Not all of them. 3 board members sat with their arms crossed, refusing. But it was enough. Minjun had a majority. The 3 of you who voted no are welcome to sell your shares and leave, Minjun said. I won't stop you. But if you stay, you follow the new direction. No exceptions. 2 of the 3 stood and walked out immediately. The third, a woman named Kwan who'd been with the company for 15 years, stayed seated. I didn't vote yes because I think this is financially smart. I voted no because I think it's financial suicide. But, she paused. I have a daughter. She's 12. And I've been wondering lately what I'm teaching her about success and integrity. Maybe your way is better. Maybe it's not. But I'll stay and find out. Minjun nodded, grateful. Thank you. The press conference that afternoon was chaos. Minjun stood in front of cameras and journalists and announced that his company was undergoing a complete ethical restructuring. He admitted to past harmful business practices, named specific companies and individuals they'd hurt, announced compensation packages for affected parties, outlined new business principles focused on fair trade and community benefit. The questions came fast and aggressive. Are you admitting to illegal activity? I'm admitting to legal activity that was morally wrong. We exploited loopholes and used aggressive tactics that, while not illegal, caused real harm to real people. Why now? What changed? Minjun hesitated. He could lie, claim it was a planned evolution, protect his privacy. But Stephanie's letter had been brutally honest with him. He owed the world the same honesty. I was engaged to be married. My fiancée discovered what my company was doing and left me because she couldn't reconcile loving me with what I was becoming. She was right to leave. and her leaving forced me to look at myself honestly for the first time in years. I didn't like what I saw. Where is your fiancé now? That's not relevant. She's moved on. This isn't about winning her back. This is about becoming someone worthy of the faith she had in me. Will this restructuring bankrupt your company? Maybe. But I'd rather run an ethical company on the verge of bankruptcy than a profitable company built on harm. The next few weeks were brutal. The stock price dropped 40%. Major investors pulled out. Several key executives resigned. The business press called him everything from delusional to narcissistic to having a messiah complex. His company was hemorrhaging money and credibility. But something else happened too. Smaller ethical investment firms started buying shares. Companies with strong social responsibility records reached out about partnerships. Consumers who'd boycotted his company's products started buying again. It wasn't enough to offset the losses, not yet, but it was something. And Min Jun found he could sleep at night. 2 months after returning from Lagos, he received an email from Adeyemi Olabisi. The subject line read, "An unexpected development. Mr. Choi, I've been following the news about your company's restructuring with interest, and, I'll admit, some skepticism. It's easy to make promises. It's harder to keep them when they're expensive, but you seem to be keeping them. I've spoken with several companies in Asia and Africa that your organization has reached out to with compensation and partnership offers. They all reported that your representatives were genuine and fair. I'm writing because I've reconsidered your partnership proposal. I'm now willing to discuss a fair trade arrangement between our companies, if you're still interested. Not because I fully trust you yet, that will take time, but because you seem to be taking steps in the right direction. Also, Stephanie asked me to tell you something. She said, and I quote, tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him it's still not enough for me to come back, but I'm proud of him anyway. I hope that brings you some measure of peace. Regards, Adeyemi Olabisi." Min Jun read the message 3 times, focusing on Stephanie's words. I'm proud of him. Not I forgive him or I love him or I want him back. Just proud. It was such a small thing, but it felt like oxygen after months of suffocating. She was watching. Even from thousands of miles away, building her new life, she was watching to see if he'd actually change. And she was proud. It wasn't enough, would never be enough to fill the Stephanie-shaped hole in his life. But it was something. Min Jun threw himself into the work. He personally oversaw compensation negotiations with every company and individual his organization had harmed. He established new supplier relationships based on fair prices rather than exploitation. He created an independent ethics board with the power to veto any business decision that violated the company's new principles. It was exhausting. It was expensive. It was the most meaningful work he'd ever done. 4 months after Stephanie left, Min Jun was in his office late at night reviewing quarterly reports when his phone rang. Ji-won. Hello. He was surprised. Ji-won hadn't spoken to him since Stephanie left. I'm calling because Stephanie asked me to check on you, Ji-won said without preamble. She wanted to know if you were okay. Min Jun's heart jumped. She did. Don't read too much into it. She still cares about your well-being. That doesn't mean she wants to be with you. I know. How is she? That's not why I'm calling. But since you asked, she's doing well. She's working with an NGO in Lagos that supports small businesses. She's happy, Min Jun. Or at least, she's healing. Good. That's good. A pause. Then Ji-won said, more gently, I've been following what you're doing with your company. The restructuring. The compensations. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I promised her I'd change. You didn't promise her anything. She left without giving you the chance. I promised myself, then. Same thing. Another pause. She saved you, you know, by leaving. She saved you from becoming someone completely irredeemable. I know. Do you? Do you understand that walking away from you was the hardest thing she's ever done? That she cried for weeks? That even now, months later, she still loves you and hates herself for it. Min Jun closed his eyes. Ji-won, why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that your change matters. Not just for your business or your reputation. It matters because somewhere in Lagos, Stephanie checks the news about your company every morning. She reads every article about your restructuring. She's watching to see if the man she loved actually existed or if she imagined him. What should I do? Nothing. Keep changing. Keep being better. And maybe someday, if you become the man she believed you could be, she'll reach out. Or maybe she won't. Maybe the change is its own reward. That's very philosophical. That's very realistic. Ji-won's voice softened. I hated you for what you did to her. For making her choose between love and integrity. But I'm starting to see that maybe you hated yourself for it too. Maybe that's enough. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. No, Ji-won agreed. But it's a start. She hung up. Min Jun sat in his office, staring at quarterly reports that showed his company was still losing money but stabilizing. They'd survive. Barely. But they'd survive as something he could be proud of. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A Lagos area code. His heart stopped. I heard you partnered with Mr. Olabisi's company. Fair trade terms. No exploitation. I'm glad. Just those 2 sentences. No, I miss you, or come find me, or let's try again. Just acknowledgement that she was still watching, still waiting to see if his change was real. Minjun typed and deleted a dozen responses. I miss you. I'm sorry. Please come back. I love you. I'm trying to be better. All true. All inadequate. Finally, he settled on something simple. I'm trying to be the man you deserved. Thank you for giving me the chance. M. He sent it before he could overthink it. 3 minutes later, another message. Don't do it for me. Do it because it's right. But I'm glad you're trying. If you've ever tried to change yourself for someone who left you, you know how much this moment means. Show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing because you need to see how this ends. Minjun stared at the message, reading between the lines. She was proud of him. She was watching. But she wasn't coming back. Not yet, maybe not ever. And she was right. He needed to change because it was right, not because he was trying to win her back. But God, he missed her. 6 months after Stephanie left, Minjun's company posted its first profitable quarter under the new ethical business model. The profit margins were smaller than before, but they existed. The business press, which had predicted his company's collapse, started writing cautiously optimistic pieces about sustainable ethical capitalism. Investors who'd fled started cautiously returning. More importantly, the companies they'd harmed started working with them again. The Thai pharmaceutical company they'd bought out and gutted, Minjun had reinstated 200 employees and given them back equity in the business. The Vietnamese supplier they'd bankrupted, they were now a valued partner with a 10-year contract at fair rates. The Seoul restaurant chain, Minjun had sold their leases back at the original prices and issued a public apology. It wasn't enough to undo all the harm. Nothing would be. But it was something. Minjun celebrated the profitable quarter alone in his penthouse, drinking the expensive whiskey he'd bought to share with Stephanie on their wedding night. The wedding that would never happen. He toasted to empty air and tried not to think about how different this moment would be if she were here. His phone buzzed. Another message from the Lagos number. I saw the quarterly reports. You did it. You actually built something ethical and profitable. I didn't think it was possible. S. Minjun smiled despite himself. You taught me it was worth trying. Her response came quickly. I didn't teach you anything. I just left. You taught yourself. You left the evidence, but trusted me not to force you to use it. That was teaching. A longer pause this time. Minjun could imagine her in Lagos, sitting in whatever apartment she'd found, staring at her phone and deciding how much to say. Finally, another message. I check on you sometimes. Through news articles, and Mr. Olabisi, and G1. I needed to know if my faith in you was misplaced. And you're different. Really different. Not just in how you do business, but in how you talk about it. You actually seem to care now. I do care. I should have cared all along. Yes, you should have. But better late than never, I suppose. Minjun hesitated before typing his next message. Do you ever think about us? About what we had. The pause was so long he thought she wouldn't respond. Then, finally, every day? But thinking about something and wanting it back are different things. I understand. Do you? Do you understand that even though you've changed, I can't just come back? That too much happened. That I'm different now too. I do understand. You built a life without me. You're happy. Or at least, you're healing. G1 told you that. She did. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, even if it's not with me. Another long pause. You've really changed, haven't you? The old Minjun would have shown up at my door with flowers and promises. Would have tried to convince me that love was enough. The old Minjun was an idiot who didn't understand that love without respect for the other person's choices is just another form of selfishness. When did you get so wise? When I lost the only person whose opinion of me actually mattered. This time, the pause stretched so long that Minjun thought the conversation was over. He poured another glass of whiskey, toasted to lessons learned too late, and was about to set his phone down when it buzzed again. I'm coming to Seoul next month. Business trip for the NGO I work with. We're meeting with potential partners. Minjun's heart stopped. Would you want to see me? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not promising anything. But maybe we could have coffee. Talk. See if we can be in the same room without it hurting too much. I would like that. Very much. Minjun, I need you to understand something. This isn't me coming back. This isn't us trying again. This is just coffee between two people who used to know each other. I understand. Thank you for even considering it. Don't thank me yet. It might be a terrible idea. Or it might give us both some closure. Maybe. We'll see. I'll message you when I'm in Seoul. Good night, Minjun. Good night, Stephanie. Minjun sat in his empty penthouse, holding his phone, replaying the conversation. She was coming to Seoul. He'd see her again. It wasn't a reunion, wasn't a second chance, was probably just a chance to say goodbye properly. But it was something. The next month moved in slow motion. Minjun continued the work of rebuilding his company, but his mind kept drifting to the upcoming meeting. What would he say to her? Would she look different? Would she look at him with the same love she used to? Or would her eyes be cold with the knowledge of what he'd been? He prepared obsessively, had his apartment professionally cleaned, bought new clothes, rehearsed conversations in his head, then realized all of that was the old Minjun behavior, trying to control and impress rather than simply being honest. So he stopped preparing. He'd just be himself. The new himself. The one trying every day to be better. If that wasn't enough for Stephanie, nothing would be. The message came on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm in Seoul. Are you free tomorrow at 2 p.m.? There's a cafe in Insadong. Suyin Sambang. Do you know it? Minjun knew it. It was a traditional tea house, the kind of place Stephanie had always loved, and he'd always found too slow and quiet. He'd gone there 3 times in the past 6 months, drinking tea alone and thinking about her. I know it. I'll be there. Minjun, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. No grand gestures. No speeches about how you've changed. Just coffee and conversation. Okay, I promise. Just coffee and conversation. He didn't sleep that night. By morning, he talked himself into and out of going a dozen times. What if seeing her broke something in him that had finally started healing? What if she looked at him with pity or disgust? What if the woman he loved was completely gone, replaced by someone who barely remembered why she'd loved him? But he promised. So at 1:45 p.m., Minjun walked into Suyin Sambang and found a quiet corner table. He ordered tea he didn't want and waited, watching the door like his life depended on it. At 2:03 p.m., Stephanie walked in. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, cut into a sleek bob that framed her face. She wore traditional Nigerian attire, a vibrant Ankara print dress that she never would have worn in Seoul before. She looked confident, grounded, free in a way she never had when she lived with him. She was beautiful. Still beautiful. Always beautiful. Their eyes met across the cafe. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Stephanie walked over, her expression carefully neutral. Hi, she said. Hi. Minjun stood, awkwardly unsure if he should hug her, shake her hand, or just sit back down. She made the decision for him, sliding into the seat across from him without any physical contact. You look well, she said. So do you. The dress is beautiful. Thank you. I'm embracing my heritage more these days. Turns out I spent a lot of years trying to fit into a Korean aesthetic that was never really me. She ordered tea from the server, her Korean still perfect, but now accented slightly differently, like she'd been speaking English and Igbo more than Korean lately. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Minjun didn't know where to start. There was so much to say and no safe way to say any of it. Stephanie broke the silence. I read about your company's partnership with the Kenyan Coffee Cooperative. Fair trade terms, profit sharing with the farmers. That was good. Thank you. It's been a learning process. I can imagine. She paused, studying him. You look tired. Running an ethical company is harder than running an exploitative one. Turns out caring about people is time-consuming. A small smile flickered across her face. Is this your way of complaining that being a good person is inconvenient? No. It's my way of saying I understand now why you were so frustrated with me. I thought you were being naive about business. You were just being decent. There's a difference. The smile faded. Minjun, I didn't come here for an apology. You've already apologized. Through your actions, through your changes. I saw it all. Then why did you come? Stephanie looked down at her tea. Closure, I think. I needed to see you and confirm that leaving was the right choice. That the man I was mourning doesn't exist anymore, if he ever did. The words stung, but they were fair. And, now that you see me, I don't know yet. She met his eyes. You seem different. Sincere. But I've been fooled by sincere before. I'm not trying to fool you. I'm just trying to be honest. That's new for you. Minjun winced, but didn't argue. You're right. I spent 4 years curating a version of myself I thought you'd love instead of just being honest about who I was. That was unfair to both of us. If you've ever sat across from someone you lost and wished you could turn back time, you know how heavy this moment is. Drop a comment if your team's second chance or team move on. And subscribe because you won't believe what Stephanie says next. Stephanie sipped her tea, considering. Ji-won told me about your board meeting. About how you threatened to destroy your own company rather than continue running it unethically. I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. Not after understanding what it cost. What did it cost, Minjun? Really? He thought about how to answer honestly. Everything that mattered. My integrity. My mother's pride. You. But mostly, it cost me myself. I became someone I didn't recognize and convinced myself it was necessary. It wasn't. It was just easier than being good. Stephanie was quiet for a long moment. I brought something for you. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. Open it. Inside was the engagement ring. The one she'd left on his counter 6 months ago. Minjun's breath caught. I don't want it back, Stephanie said quickly. I'm giving it to you so you can do whatever you want with it. Sell it. Keep it. Throw it in the Han River. But I don't want to hold on to it anymore. It represents a version of us that doesn't exist. Minjun took the ring, the weight of it heavy in his palm. I proposed to you because I loved you. That part was real. I know. But you also proposed because you liked how I looked on your arm at business dinners. Because I could help you expand into African markets. Because I fit into your life plan. That's not, he stopped. It was partially true. You're right. I loved you, but I also saw you as an asset. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I'm telling you because I need you to understand why I can't just come back, because you've changed. The foundation of what we built was flawed. You can't renovate a house built on sand. Minjun nodded slowly. So this really is goodbye. I think it has to be. Stephanie's voice cracked slightly. I loved you, Minjun. God, I loved you so much it scared me. But love without trust is just anxiety. And I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. I understand. Do you? Do you understand that even though you've changed, even though I'm proud of you, it doesn't erase what happened? You were planning to destroy my best friend's father's livelihood, and you didn't think twice about it. I thought about it all the time afterward. But not before. Not when it mattered. Stephanie wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't come here to cry or make you feel worse. I just needed to see you one more time and know that leaving was right. Was it? Right. She looked at him for a long moment. Yes. For both of us. I needed to remember who I was without you. And you needed to figure out who you wanted to be. I want to be someone worthy of you. Then be that person. Not for me, but for yourself. Build a life you're proud of. Fall in love with someone who doesn't have to teach you how to be decent. Be happy, Minjun. She stood up. I have to go. My meeting starts in 30 minutes. Minjun stood too. Stephanie, wait. Can I ask you something? She paused. Okay. Do you regret it? Us. Any of it? She considered the question carefully. I regret how it ended. I regret what you did. But I don't regret loving you. You taught me what I wanted and what I wouldn't accept. That's worth something. Will I ever see you again? I don't know. Maybe someday, when enough time has passed. When we're both completely different people living completely different lives. Maybe then we can be friends. She smiled sadly. But not now. Now it still hurts too much. She turned to leave, then stopped and turned back. Minjun, thank you. For what? For actually changing. For proving that my faith in you wasn't completely wasted. For becoming someone your mother would be proud of. She paused. I mean that. She would be proud of you now. And then she was gone, walking out of the cafe and out of his life for the second time. Minjun sat back down, the engagement ring in his hand, and let himself cry for the first time since she'd left. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears for everything they'd been and everything they'd never be. The server came by. Sir, are you all right? I will be, Minjun said, and surprisingly, he meant it. He sat there for another hour, drinking cold tea and thinking. Stephanie was right. They couldn't go back. The foundation had been flawed. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some things weren't meant to be fixed, just learned from. Minjun paid the bill, left the cafe, and walked through Insadong. The neighborhood was full of life and color and people living their ordinary, extraordinary lives. He thought about his mother, about what she'd want for him. She'd want him to be good, to build something meaningful, to find happiness that didn't come at someone else's expense. She'd be proud of him now. Stephanie had said so. That had to be enough. 6 months later, Minjun's company posted its 4th consecutive profitable quarter under ethical business practices. The business press stopped calling him crazy and started calling him visionary. Other companies began adopting similar models. He was invited to speak at conferences about sustainable capitalism and ethical business leadership. He said yes to some, no to most. The attention wasn't the point. The work was the point. On the 1-year anniversary of the day Stephanie left, Minjun received a package. Inside was a photo from their first date, the same one from her letter, and a note card. I heard you spoke at the Social Enterprise Conference. Someone sent me your speech. You talked about how real success is measured not by what you accumulate, but by what you contribute. Your mother would have loved that. I won't say I've forgiven you. Forgiveness is complicated. But I will say I'm glad you exist in the world as you are now. Keep being this person. Also, I'm engaged. His name is Chitty. He's a doctor, works with Medicines Sans Frontieres. He's kind and honest, and makes me laugh. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Be well, Minjun. Build a good life. S. Minjun read the note 3 times. It hurt, but not as much as he'd expected. There was relief mixed with the pain. Stephanie was happy, truly happy, with someone who'd never had to learn how to be kind, who'd been that way all along. She deserved that. He framed the photo from their first date and put it on his office desk, not as a shrine to what he'd lost, but as a reminder of what mattered. That young woman in the photo had seen something in him worth loving. Maybe it had taken losing her to actually become that person. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes change comes too late. But sometimes, just sometimes, losing everything teaches us what really matters. Drop a comment telling us what you think. Did Minjun deserve a second chance? Or was Stephanie right to walk away? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. Minjun picked up his phone and typed a message he'd never sent. Congratulations. I hope he gives you everything I couldn't. Thank you for making me better, even though it cost you everything. Be happy, Stephanie. That's all I want now. He deleted it and put his phone away. Some messages didn't need to be sent to be true. Instead, he opened his laptop and reviewed the proposal for a new initiative, a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs in developing countries, teaching them how to build successful businesses without compromising their ethics. It was ambitious and expensive and exactly what his mother would have wanted. Outside his office window, Seoul glittered in the evening light. Somewhere across the world, Stephanie was planning her wedding, building her life, probably not thinking about him at all. And that was okay. Minjun wasn't the man she'd fallen in love with. He wasn't the man she'd left either. He was someone new, built from the wreckage of both those versions. Someone who understood that success meant nothing if it came at the cost of your soul. Someone his mother would be proud of. Someone he could finally stand to see in the mirror. He picked up the framed photo from his desk one last time, studying their young, hopeful faces. "Thank you," he whispered to the Stephanie in the picture. "For everything." Then he set it down, turned off his office lights, and went home to his empty penthouse that no longer felt like a cage. Just a place he lived while he built something worth building. Some loves teach you who you are. Some teach you who you need to become. Stephanie had taught him both. And that, Minjun finally understood, was the greatest gift she could have given him. Even if it meant giving her up forever. If you made it this far, you're part of our story family. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional journey. What should our next story be about? Drop your suggestions in the comments. And remember, sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that teach us to love ourselves enough to change. See you next time.